Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm joined by Chris McElwain. A lot of you were asking where he was this afternoon, Chris. They were wondering on a Wednesday why you were not trigger happy and blocking regulars. But here you are tonight, and we're here for the Sligo Rovers friendly match. We should be doing more of this, especially during the international breaks. Gives minutes and fringe players legs, Chris. That's what it's all about. And also going over to Ireland. And you know, Sligo Rovers and Sligo in particular have got a good history with the club, haven't they?
They do, but do you know what? See, before I answer any of that, I'm just watching out to see if Paddy Lavery comes on so that I can ban him. Okay, because I saw his comment today, and old itchy finger here is feeling particularly itchy. Okay, so Paddy, if you're coming up, toe the line, mate.
Beware.
Absolutely. No, like I agree with you. I think there's been a lot of talk actually on the pod and over the socials and amongst our group as well about, you know, how can we, or what do we need to see from Scottish football, and what do we need to see from the club to try and get more exposure to some of the you know, what would be classed as kind of the B team or the second string players. And I think, you know, nights like tonight are kind of ideal because you get a chance to see them, and okay, it's a friendly match, but you're getting a chance to see them up against some actual real opposition, which can only be a good thing, particularly on, you know, opportunities like this with the international break. And yeah, as you say, what a better place to go than, you know, a place with real rich history in terms of Sligo. Always takes me back to my childhood when I think it was my mum used to do the old cassette tapes and LPs, and was it not the green hills or the green grass of Sligo, if I remember right, the green hills of Sligo. I think it was old Daniel O'Donnell song, I believe. So,
well, give us a little rendition. Seeing how it's a nighttime game.
That's no, Brian's. Right. That's Brian's role on here. No, I don't sing. I bring the hair. That's it.
I'm not sure what I bring, but what I do bring tonight is the starting 11. Here we go. And obviously, we're going to have a right good look at the starting 11 this evening. Scott Bain, the most unused substitute in the history of the football club, he starts tonight. This is what I'm talking about, though, Chris. When else is Scott Bain going to get a game of football? You know,
I agree. And it's a tricky position on a goalie as well, you know, because it's the opportunities are generally not there. You don't get the same rotation.
Absolutely. Sinisalo on international duty, as are a few other Celts, as always, during these international breaks. But Scott Bain, you know, I use the term a competitive game of football, and I don't mean that in terms of a competitive competition, but competitive in so far as it's going to be a competitive game tonight, albeit a friendly. It's going to be better than a fifth-tier Lowland League game for some of the young guys that are coming in. And it's going to give the cover star, Lewis Palmer, and others. And by the way, I doubt he's playing right back, but Lewis Palmer's going to be playing as well. What do you make of Palmer this season? There was a story, Enrique Palmer, his father, came out to speak about where he's at currently with Celtic. Obviously not getting a game, not even coming off the bench at the moment. And of course, he is taking a wee step back from the socials, which I absolutely endorse. But he's playing tonight, and listen, I know it's a bounce game, it's Sligo Rovers, etc. But he's a guy that needs to get his confidence back, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I don't like writing players off, certainly so early in their career. And I don't think we've seen enough from Palmer this season to make a hugely informed decision about his future. I do think he's down the pecking order by virtue of the good form of Maeda and Kuhn. And obviously Forrest coming in as well, and still playing a key role even at this point in his career. But the opportunity's there, and sometimes you've got to take every conceivable opportunity there is. And if that means Palmer goes out tonight, tries to showcase his skills, tries to show that he's developing, that he's improving, he's maybe enhancing those areas of the game where he's been perhaps criticised or scrutinised for, then, you know, all fairness to him, I hope he does. And listen, it's a difficult thing because you come to Celtic as a player, as a manager, you don't get a huge amount of time, right? So it is so important that you come in and you make a big impression, but not just over the course of one match. You've got to do it consistently over a period of time and show that you can meaningfully contribute on a consistent basis. Palmer had elements of that last year with his stats, and his assists that he was racking up on a sort of game-to-game basis were really impressive. But somewhere down the line, it really tailed off for him. And then, obviously, you get the supporter eye test, which I think we're all guilty of, and I do it as well, where you look at certain behavioural attributes and certain things that you notice and you think, bit unsure about this fella. You know, is he really committed? Is he really the type of player that we want to see on the field? Is he really someone that we can get behind? And what you want to see is a bit of a reaction. Now, his father coming out and defending him, listen, I'm a father, I would do absolutely the same. If he's coming off social media, listen, I'm the same as you, 100% behind it. Get your head down, do your talking on the park. That's easy for us to say because we're of a certain generation where we, you know, if we wanted to talk to someone, we had to dial round a phone about 20 times and then do it again after we messed it up the first time and that sort of thing. So, you know, I get that social media is a big part of culture, and particularly around his sort of generation. But when you're representing the club, you don't just represent them on the park, you do it off the park as well. And there's a lot of expectation on players. So, yeah, like, wouldn't write any of the players off. Tonight, not the most meaningful game, but maybe Palma should view it as meaningful and use it as that opportunity to, you know, just, you know, make the manager take a second beat and say, do you know what, this kid might have something.
Well, the big thing for me is, right, you go back to that old cliche almost, that Celtic don't play friendlies. I think it came around when Celtic were playing Liverpool. You had two guys at the forefront of both their clubs, Jockstein and Bill Shankly, and there was some kind of dinner before a game in the lead up about a testimonial match. It was. Someone in the comments will tell me whose testimonial. It will be in one of the books behind me somewhere along the line. And both managers said, what the first one said, we don't play friendlies. The other one stood up and goes, neither do we, you know, and it was one of the ones. Tonight, I just want to see some of these guys that are not getting game time. I want to see, not so much Scott Bain, because we know what Scott Bain can do, and if Sinisalo wasn't on international duty, he'd probably get a game, because we need to start seeing what he can do between the sticks. He's going to get very, very little game time now that we know he's not going to be that League Cup goalie, is he? Because Schmeichel's played every game. Lewis Palma, we've seen in season 1 under Brendan Rodgers that he's a something of a flair player, I think. But at times, it's like a number 10 in the modern game. That can often be viewed as a luxury player, Chris, because they're not, you know, they're maybe contributing when the going's good, but we need players to contribute when you're 2-1 down against Falkirk. We need players to contribute at Dingwall at the weekend when you're a goal down. We need our wingers to have that kind of grit as well as the flair. And I think that's where the doubts come in. You were talking earlier about having maybe a wee bit, are we behind this guy? I'm behind everybody in a Celtic jersey, but there are certain players that you wonder, are they up for this? And Palma, go out and show a professionalism first and foremost, but also show us what you can do. And that includes defensive work. You're going to have to work hard if you want to play on the wing for Brendan Rodgers. And of course, before I come back to Valle, on the other wing, I would expect Yang to be playing. And he's another player who got a bit of game time last year, but it's really been cameos this time round. This is a type of game that's important for players like Palma and Yang and Nawrocki. And I'm looking for home and I can't find him, and I'm not sure if he's injured at this moment in time, or if he's on international duty for under 21s. This is the type of game that fringe player needs on a regular basis, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, it's not just about what they're doing in terms of their own performance, but, you know, guys like Palma, Yang, probably to an extent Nawrocki as well. Stephen Welsh is another one who's captain in the side tonight. These guys have been in or around the first team in league matches and European matches. You know, they've been part of the squad. They know the standards that it takes to beat this club, even if they're not always necessarily the guys who are hitting those standards yet. But they're in this team and in this squad with a lot of young players. They've got an opportunity not just to show what they can do in terms of their own performance, they can lead by example as well. They can be the leaders on the park tonight. And again, you know, I'm not overstating or overestimating the importance of the match tonight. But I would expect Brendan or his coaching staff to be watching this tonight and saying, yep, you know what, he's good. You can rely on him coming off the bench, or he's someone that actually you could turn to if one of the players get injured. So there's an opportunity for these guys who are on the fringes of the first team at the moment to, you know, try and enhance their standing as part of the squad. But there's also equally an opportunity for some of these young boys to show that they've got a future here at this club, and they're ready to, you know, start to make a step up. And we know that Brendan's been pretty ruthless, because we've seen guys like Bosun Lawal head out. We saw the challenge thrown down to Home, who's unfortunately not on tonight. So there's opportunities all round. And I think it'll be a measure of the players to see, will they take it on. Yeah, I did notice some of the comments coming in. Guys, you're joking about this, but legitimately, I can ban you at the moment. Paul John is powerless to stop me. I have the access. I can't do it. So.
John's saying, remember, it's a friendly, Chris.
All bets are off when it comes to the comments, especially when it comes to a certain Mr. Lavery. But no, I mean, look, I'm like you. I'm looking forward to seeing what every player can bring to the table tonight. I'll happily watch Scotland over our national football every day of the week, even if it is the so-called B team or the second string. But what I'd like to see is players showing a bit of hunger, a bit of passion, a bit of desire to go and say, look at me, come and watch me and see what I can do, and give me an opportunity somewhere down the line.
Well, the big thing you mentioned there, Bosun Lawal, I remember we were getting a bit excited about him during the pre-season prior to the American tour, but you almost were able to join the dots up with some of the chat from Brendan. He spoke after a game and he pinpointed Odin Holm and Bosun Lawal in relation to, right, okay, doing all right's not good enough when you want to play for Celtic, and I expect more. Next thing you know, Lawal's out the club. Rocco Vata, I think there was a ruthlessness around dealing with that scenario there as well, and I think also Daniel Kelly. Yeah. There was a ruthless nature there. Mikey Johnson's another one, a player who had been in and out the side, but it was ruthless. And Bernabe, I think Bernabe is another example who got sent away to Brazil to ply his trade until at least the new year. So yeah, I do think that he's been pretty patient, both with Yang and Palmer. But there comes a point, Chris, where it's like, right, you really need to step up now, because if you don't, that's two jerseys. And I need people who, on 60 to 65 minutes at the weekend, I had to count on every substitute to come on and make an impact, and I think they did. So that's where they are now in terms of Brendan Rodgers and the confidence that he might have in them. Is this game available anywhere? Forever and Ever Celtic, I can guarantee you it's on the League of Ireland PPV service. Easy for me to say. But I also said to Chris before we came on, I noticed on Celtic TV on Twitter that they said it was also being screened live, but it didn't have the caveat, that's the Acsom word, caveat, of only being available outside of the UK. So because it's a friendly, perhaps they will be showing it. Check it out. No Home, very strange. I'm pretty sure, Craig, if, and I'll check this while we're chatting, if Norway have got an underage game coming up, he will be on international duty because he does represent them at under 21 levels. So here we go. My excitement in the forward positions. No excitement, sorry, in the forward positions. Hail from Corby. Who else have we got in here that we're going to be keeping an eye on? Well, we've got Alex Valle, Barcelona, from Barcelona to Sligo Rovers. He's a player. The other day there, I ran with a tagline in relation to how a lot of people, and I'm not just saying Celtic fans, I'm talking press, I'm talking a lot of the social media kind of trends in relation to Engels and Ida. But we did see it after Valle's debut as well, Chris. We're very quick to judge, aren't we, when it comes to footballers?
So cliche alert, but you're only as good as your last performance, right? I mean, that's the nature of football. It applies to both players and managers. But I think, yeah, I mean, like Ida maybe is always going to come under a bit more scrutiny because of what we've paid for him, the fact that he'd been at the club already, so he doesn't necessarily have the same. The same, I don't want to use the word excuse, but the same rationale for maybe being off it as Engels, who's still trying to acclimatise, and Valle as well. But I think, look, we've evolved as a team this year. We're playing different football for me to last year, albeit at the weekend, we seem to have reverted a little bit to some of the worst habits from last season. But I think we need to give players, particularly players like Engels and Valle, who are particularly young. And I mean, he does only a couple of years older. But these are guys who came from a different country, different climate, different culture, different language. I know football's a kind of universal language, but Engels has been on a purple patch up until the last couple of games. I mean, he comes up against a really firing on all cylinders Dortmund team, which I don't think I think you could have put Zidane and Del Piero in our team and we'd probably still have struggled in that match the way they were playing. And, he's then come back to domestic football, an away game, Ross County, kind of a bit of a damp, dark, probably the worst type of Scottish football experience you can imagine. So I'm not going to judge either player or either for that matter too harshly. I think they'll all play a huge part in any success we'll have this season. Hopefully that'll be domestic at the very minimum. And Engels, for me, he's shown enough in even his short tenure to tell me that it's a big outlay for us, but he's looking like a class player overall. Maybe needs to get a bit more resilient, maybe needs to up his adaptability a bit more and, recognise that you don't have any down games when you play for Celtic. Every game's a cup final, to throw in another cliche. But over time, he'll acclimatise to that and, hopefully embraces that high standard that we have as supporters and as a club, and he'll start to produce it week on week on the park.
Going back to the query earlier about where this game is going to be shown, what I would say, if it is on Celtic TV, they have no pre-match. They have no pre-match discussion, Chris, so you'd be just as well sticking with Acsom until kick-off. That's all I'm saying. John, the truck driving legend, still a driving god.
Wow.
And it's humble. He's got that Fife humble, the humility of the Fifers. Even in PG8 from a fellow Fife-based Celt, where in Fife were you based? Or are you based? I got a feeling that this is Palmer's last chance. If he fails tonight, then I'll drive him to the airport myself. He's a guy that, this, right? See if it doesn't work out at Celtic, I still believe that Palmer will go away and excel somewhere. I think he's a star player for a team somewhere. But when you play for Celtic, it's not about the TikTok, it's not about the Instagram reels. No. It's about, like you were saying before, every single game, be that Dortmund away, Falkirk at home, every single game, you're going to be scrutinised for every part that you play in each individual match. And this is the thing that comes to mentality. And I speak a lot to a lot of ex-players who say that the players who don't make it at Celtic are not necessarily flops. A lot of ex-players don't like the word flop. It just didn't work out, and it could have been something as simple as that. You look at Timu Pukki, who left Celtic, who came to Celtic as a prolific striker, left Celtic and was a prolific striker, but whilst in Glasgow, couldn't do it. So he might fall into that category, but it comes to the point where if you've got the buy-in from the manager, and that I think sometimes comes down to your personality and your attitude, then they will persevere with anything else they need to work with, Chris. If you've got a bit of an attitude problem, I think there's less of an opportunity for you. And if the fans get behind you, often that comes down to your resilience, a word you mentioned earlier, your attitude, your will to win, your never say die attitude, all these other things that don't show up on the analytics and on the data. These are things that I don't think can be taught. It's either in you or it's not. And if a player doesn't have it, I think fans suss them out pretty quickly. And then, you're far more likely, I think, to get on their back and criticise them when things aren't going well, right? And that's human nature. Now, other players who are coming up here are, I'm guessing Bain's going to be in goals. Palmer, I'll come back to that because one of the young guys can play left wing. So Palmer could well be on the left with Yang on the right. Valle at left back. I'm thinking McCowan in centre midfield, obviously. Let's talk about McCowan. He needs to start games for Celtic. Here's a perfect opportunity. And can I just say at some point this season, during an international break, I think he will get called up. He will be in Steve Clark's squad.
You beat me to it. It's exactly what I was going to say. I think the reason McCowan's in today is because he's not quite caught the eye of Steve Clark. But going back to a lot of what you said there about the type of player that resonates with the Celtic fans, McCowan's done it, right, already, even in his short time.
Perfect example, mate. Even though he's backed it up with the performances. Perfect example.
He has so far. I mean, he's not been there too long, so let's not set unrealistic expectations on the boy. But he's someone who didn't come in with a lot of fanfare and possibly even less fanfare than a player like Lewis Palmer, for example. And there were certainly a few detractors, ourselves included. You've said it and I've said it. I wasn't particularly excited about the signing, partly through ignorance. I didn't know enough about the player. And all it took for me was one interview to think, this boy's worth watching, right? But you can talk the talk at this club. You have to go and walk the walk. And he went on to the. Sorry, I'm full of the cliches tonight. I'm going to get hassled for that later. But he walked onto that park. First couple of appearances, and his attitude was just there. He didn't have to go and score worldy goals or produce a best assist or anything like that. There was something about him that made people think he could fit in here. He could do a job. Now he's got tons still to prove. I think he's got he's got good opportunities. I think you're right. I think there's a future internationalist there if we develop him properly, if he keeps himself right and takes every opportunity he gets, then absolutely. But tonight, I think, again, he's a player that can say, okay, I've not been in the door long, but I am in the senior team and I've made a few appearances. So again, I'm going to go and try and lead by example and show actually that, I'm ready to step up whenever I'm called upon. And I think it's a great chance for him. So I'm keen to see what he can do tonight. I think there's a double-edged sword with a game like this. You've got a few senior pros in there. The problem is that if they get outshone by some of the young guys and don't necessarily show that attitude and that ability to step up, even in games like this, that could actually do them more damage. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the death knell for their Celtic careers, but there's a higher level of expectation on them to perform in a team of relatively inexperienced youngsters versus what there would be on a league match.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm just having a wee look here to try and clarify the Odin Home question, and I'll come back to that because if indeed he is available and he's not part of this game, it adds to the narrative around him being left out of the Champions League squad as well. And this is a guy who came to Celtic having played the best part of 100 games. We signed him as a 19-year-old. And it looked as though we could develop the player. He showed some flashes, but again, going back to a point you made, flashes aren't good enough at Celtic. The two centre-halves, the centre-half pairing that we would expect to see tonight, Stephen Welsh, who captains the side. We know all about Stephen Welsh, but again, he needs more games. And Mike Nawrocki, another one that you put into that category, don't you, that you don't really know what the future holds for this guy. He's in the Champions League squad. He hasn't played much football, and he appears to be perennially injured. So you just hope that he gets 90 minutes in the legs tonight, really.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a difficult one. I don't know whether he's a player that I rate or I don't, because I just simply haven't seen enough of him. Not consistently, anyway. When he has played, I don't think he's done anything outstanding or shockingly bad in equal measure. I think he's just been one of these guys that's kind of in. He's been scrutinised for the odd mistake. Other times he's been praised for, his positioning and his tactical awareness. So I think he needs to get a clean bill of health for a while, stay fit, stay in and around the first team, and again, if he gets opportunities, maybe starting with tonight, hopefully show that again he's a player that can be relied upon to come in, particularly as we're starting to see injuries to key players like Cameron Carter-Vickers. So we do need someone that can cover for him. We've got Trusty, he's just in the door. We're still trying to kind of make our minds up about him. He's again another one it's a bit of a baptism of fire. But Nawrocki, you'd like to think, would be possibly the fourth choice there, or would it be Stephen Welsh? I mean, Stephen Welsh for me is getting scarily close to Mikey Johnson territory at the moment as a Celtic player. He's getting close to the point where you start to think, at what point does this forever perennial prospect Stephen Welsh actually step up to the mark? And listen, I'm not trying to denigrate the kid. If it was easy, I'd be doing it, and trust me, I'm nowhere near it. I just want to see players make good on their obvious potential, because he wouldn't be part of the squad for this long if he didn't have something something in the locker. But he's just never seemed to quite be able to make a step up. And like Nawrocki, he's another one that has real issues with fitness. So yeah, through them, we've got something to prove tonight. Even if it's just getting through the 90 minutes with a solid, steady, injury-free performance.
Well, I'm still trying to find Odin Home in the Norway squad, because they do have a game on Friday night against Ireland, so there is a chance that he'll be in there. But I share your views on Stephen Welsh. There comes a point in every footballer's career where they've got to look at whether or not they want to be that backup. And the thing with him being a backup, unlike, I would say, Tony Ralston, there's not been a spell of games where he's come in and really held down the jersey. Ralston has in his Celtic career. Welsh has never done that. And you look at where we are in terms of who's your first two picks at centre-half. Well, it's Liam Scales and Carter-Vickers. Behind that, you've got Austin Trusty, and you've possibly got Stephen Welsh, because he's the guy that always gets the nod over Mike Nawrocki. Some of the other guys obviously have been shipped out. Nawrocki, it's going to be a long way back for him, I think. Now, a player that we did see during the pre-season was Lenny Agbayer, and we were talking about him just before we came on live, and I think that he's the type of guy that centre-half again, so I don't know what formation we're playing tonight, maybe 3 at the back. Agbayer looked tremendous in one moment, and then a bit of a bomb scare the next. And I don't like writing anybody off, right? He's 19 years of age. But he did look a wee bit suspect defensively against, I think it was Queen's Park and Ayr United. So another good test for the kid tonight.
Yeah, he was one of those players that, I think it was the Ayr United game, I watched him and I thought he had everything in that game. I mean, he must have encountered everything. Even, I think at one point he nearly got sent off. Such was just the way the game was going. He was... he jumping, he was winning tackles, he looked a big, athletic, physically looked a real specimen. And then, so erratic with the tackles, like, 20 yards away from the player that he's trying to win the ball off of and timing things wrong. And I mean, he couldn't have looked more like a development player if he tried. I personally, I was really keen to see more of him because I just thought he was a fun player to watch. I thought he was the kind of guy that would give you the best elements of an F.A. Ambrose or an Oliver Tebley, but all the worst parts as well. So, again, good opportunity for him. He's obviously done enough to stay sort of in and around the picture. I know he's very much a stalwart of the B team, and I've heard mixed reviews about his performances. But he's another one that you think, well, managers keen to take another look at. You're in the starting lineup as opposed to on the bench, so go and take your opportunity, son. I would like maybe a less erratic and more controlled performance from Lenny Agbayer tonight.
Erratic, that's the word. Mantis Toboggan MD. This is a match fitness exercise and nothing more. I agree with you. I absolutely do agree with you. Every player in the Celtic first team squad should be playing at least one game. And I say competitive game. A game that is against opposition of this kind of level, even if we need to organise a number of friendly games until such times as the reserve stroke B team gets sorted out in Scottish football, because it's not ideal. Currently, Andy Lee, a back 3 tonight, potentially, Andy. I think that you're right with that. And Donny, this is the best point I've read so far. Where's Anton Rodgers? Because he's been out the side for a while. Alan Hepburn on the Facebook. Great to hear from you from Facebook. Look, we still actually communicate with our audience on Facebook. What's this game all about? That's a big question, Alan. And we've been talking about that for almost 30 minutes. Now, what it's about is basically it's an international break. Celtic have got a sizable squad and some youth players who are obviously playing in the 5th tier. This is a hybrid team that's playing against Sligo Rovers, and we have connections with Sligo. A certain Andrew Kearns, who's better known as Brother Walfred, was the founder of the football club, and he was a Sligonian, as was Sean Fallon, who played for Celtic, obviously alongside Jock Stein in the 1950s, and then was Jock's right-hand man through the glory years. He was a talent spotter, was Sean Fallon. Unbelievable connection to Sligo, so it's only right that we go over there. Now, here's a player that I've got a lot of time for. I'm glad we signed up on a new deal, and it's Francis Turley.
I thought you were going to get to him, yeah.
Yeah, we spoke a wee bit about Francis Turley during the pre-season, because I thought every time he came on, he looked really good against top-class opposition in America. He's a central midfield player. He's only 18, and I think he's one for the future. Seeing how you've been using all the cliches, I thought I'd use one myself.
Yeah, do you know what? I think he was a player that when I saw him, he brought to mind something that Jackie McNamara said about Ben Doak. He said he's a guy who just trusts his own ability. He thinks he can go out there and be the best player in the park every time he steps on there. And I'm not saying that's the attitude that Turley's got, but it reflected that sort of attitude in his play, which I thought was great. I like to see players who, as we've said tonight, they see the opportunity and they take it, and they think, well, this is a chance for me to go and show what I can do. And I like a bit of bravery when you see young players, like guys who sort of think, this might not be the safest run or the safest move or the safest shot to take, but they'll do it because they think, well, this is the only chance I'll get, and they'll do it. And Turley plays a bit like that. But at the same time, he's also got a degree of maturity about him in his play as well. He wasn't someone that was, as I referenced by earlier, who was doing lots of good stuff and lots of horrendous stuff at the same time. I think Purley looked actually like he understood his role and understood his job. So, yeah, keen to see what he can do. And he's another one that's been in and around the first team. So hopefully that experience of even being around those players and around the matchday squad at times will benefit him, and we'll maybe see how he's developed since pre-season here tonight.
Yeah, I think Strangelove the Doctor and Jungle Lion were being very, very polite and saying, hurry up and go off so we can watch the game. Thanks, guys.
I'll ban him if you want. I can do it.
You just watch yourself. We've also got Jude Bonner, central midfielder, 18 years of age, and Lewis Dobby, left winger, 19. So we'll see how we shape up when the teams line up. Let's go to the action. We'll be here at half-time as well, Chris and I. Dedicated followers of Celtic and at full time. Go and enjoy the game. Thanks for joining A Celtic State of Mind, and we'll see you at half-time.
Yo, guys.